Greeting everyone, this is Ahmad Muradi. I'm here with my colleague Maddie from Europe that we are going to cast the second part of our WebRTC and artificial intelligence and the marriages of these two technologies and how it benefits the industry. And we are going to start as a part two with using and utilizing the research material provided by Cranky Geek Research. The credit is due to them, and we are going to carry on from our previous session to a session in here that gives us the ability of talking about the market dynamics. Last week, we had a brief overview of how WebRTC and artificial intelligence can marry each other and provide a series of solutions and technologies that it can help in various aspects of government, military, use, education, and industries. Today, we are going to be talking more on the market side of the dynamics and some of the research and analytics that it has come out since last week, and we share that with you as a part of our what we call ICE program, the information or educating you and informing you and helping you to communicate better in this market arena, dealing with the technology. So the market dynamics that you see in here right now, there are a series of areas that is extremely important that how you can capitalize the top AI applications in RTC. RTC creates the problem or the solution either way, depending on how you look at it from the point of inception. So real-time communication, like in our case from Pixel, we create the point of inception. From the point of inception, we keep track of the users, and then we allow that information to be sent out to our sponsors, to our analytics, and to business intelligence or other services that are going to be the backend. So one of the things that you have to look at it is what are the drivers of this in the current market. One of the areas that you see there's a tremendous growth going on is improving customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction comes from many ways. Some of us use chat sites, third parties, to add it to our website. Some of us use real-time communications, for example, for communicating through web chat and video conferencing. Some of us use that for sales rooms or for presentations, programs that are available, plenty of them in the marketplace. I will not mention names, that is available in the open market, both free and paid subscribers that they are attracting and trying to work in that arena, including Salesforce, for instance. So customer expectation of AI features are always something that people are looking for, that how AI can help a customer make a better decision, help streamline the suggestive selling, the upgrades, the changes, the make models, things like that, that we all deal with. Improving employees' performance. This is also something that many AI analysts are working on. For example, one of the areas that we worked years ago for some of our clients in the banking industry, in the diversity program, where in the diversity program, we had to connect about 37 countries together, and we had to deploy 3 days of training sessions and bringing the employee performance to the standards of human relations, HR, to training, to compliance, to new product and service introductions. So those factors really plays pivotal within the AI and learning. Reduce headcounts and minimize staffing. That is another area that they're all looking at using AI. As I explained last week, in most of our organizations, we try to always question the question, and we try to come back with a proper way of automating that functions and delegating those automation to machine learning and AI. In our case, for example, the first process that we are going through this experimentation in these modern days, in addition to our prior experiences with the AI, is application of use at the infrastructure, where the machines can learn from each other and they can make themselves scalable and they can become adaptive, and then they can manage the volumes for our clienteles. And then as elastically the volume reduces itself, then they can come to a common core value that we manage for them. The other side of this equation for drivers are growing availability of AI tools. Every day, new innovations are taking place, new ways from telemedicine to AI to customer relation management, CRM AI, and to many other these aspects are being introduced. AI assistance, for example, for messaging is pivotal right now. In many cases, you see that it has been deployed also to some of the other sites. So these statistics that you see in here, they defines really the market and the growing trend that you expect to see. And also, we see there are some setbacks, what we call inhibitors. For example, right now, there are not enough qualified staff. This is a highly specialized area, requires investment. Use cases are normally unclear because management has no idea. They are trying to learn about this process as they are running their own businesses. So one of the areas that we normally try to recommend is deploy a third-party consultant that you can trust and you can work with, that they can pave the road and build the bridge to take your know-how, your expectation, your demand, your goals and objectives, and build it into really a clear case for use. Security and privacy concerns are always an issue. This is something that we have spent years ourselves on it, and we can definitely help out with different strategies. So some of the inhibitors that you see in here is our advantage that we have overcome in our processes. RTC system integration issues. Many companies, they want to sit down and learn about your know-hows and your customers and how to integrate and everything else. We decided that this is going to be a scenario that you can accommodate what we call a process of integration, which we have already built into our digital media rooms, that all you need to do is copy and paste. That's simple. So with that, you really don't need to learn about the API, about the integrations and so forth. We can show you easily how that can be deployed. A lot of these companies that they are looking at this kind of issues because of being new in the industry, both RTC and AI, they are trying to define ROI. But ROI really comes from two spectrum, what we call intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic value, it comes from productivity, from reduction of the staff, making it efficient, doing all of these things through AI that is 24/7 available for your customer relations or for your supply chain. But at the same time, that cost reduction on one side of the equation, it increases the extrinsic value. That means that your customers appreciate and they will understand the requirements. But first, you have to know what they want. And that is where you start compiling AI knowledge. And that knowledge engineering is part of this process with the AI solutions. So this is one slide that we wanted to talk about. The next slide that I really want to go to is something that I felt is about understanding marketing intelligence. Okay, this is a topic that MIQ, a recent publication, came out from a site that is called VVR. Marketing intelligence, and as you can see, there are a series of explanations. We'll be more than happy again to share these links with you for your viewing pleasure. These are provided by third parties. So one of the things that about market intelligence that is crucial is understanding that the information needed to drive business outcomes, elevating insights to fuel brand strategy rather than just using them to optimize tactics. It becomes your intelligence. And some of these studies that we are highlighting for you is examples. It's not really the way to go because every organization has their own needs, their own geo IPs, different market serve, being local or being global and so forth. So these are important to understand. While creating marketing intelligence requires applying data science and analysis that you have to apply across multiple data sources to understand the trends and customer trial. And for that, there are different third-party services that are providing big data versus your small data. So you can use your small data against the big data and look at the trends and applications. But one of the areas that you can see in here that we are right now paying attention to is a studies that has been done, for example, in UK versus United States, that over 1,000 companies have been interviewed, and they asked the executive management how important the data is and how important the data science and analytics is in running their business. Close to 61% of those audience in the United States are expressing interest that this is the way to go. As you can see, it's very important. And there are somewhat important or obviously neutral. So you can see from UK that reduction is there. And that is one of the things that US right now leads in that side of the science, so to speak. Implementation of data science, as you can see, between UK and US, again, is pretty much available and parallel to each other. And then as you get into challenges, okay, preventing investment in data science analytics, you will find, again, there are a series of variables that we like to share with you here. And that is lack of accurate measure of business impacts, okay? It's been pretty much parallel to each other. It's cost prohibitive in certain areas, or there is a lack of budget or necessary technology and infrastructure. And then at the same time, lack of resources and talent with the captive process and the cost processing, or call it labor and material from a general accounting perspective. This kind of issues has prohibited many companies to adopt. So that is why now it is basically following a pyramid, coming from top to the layers of down till ultimately becomes a mass market in the next 5 to 10 years. And you can see there are different items, you know, hard to interpret data. People don't understand data. That is another science. If you have taken courses in statistics, in quantitative method analysis, in QMBs, and you know all of these variations of science for statistical analysis, you can appreciate and understand that there are very complicated tools and standards available. And one of the things is today's marketeers need to understand those in order to navigate data. So it adds a lot of challenges to the CMOs, chief marketing officers, to the CIOs, and so forth. Lack of relevant organization. We have learned as we are working with 300-400 different companies around the globe and different large and small institutions, there is always a coordination because they never anticipated for this kind of changes taking place. So our suggestive idea is that you form a new division or a new department, and you make that the center fusion of this process with real-time communication and AI. And this group basically become the catalyst within your organizational and departments, that they take those information and compile them and bring that together to provide the expertise that it requires for building an AI. Convincing shareholders of the value, that is really something that we think is got a lesser of the importance, because shareholders are looking for long-term investment, and mostly they want to be able to maximize the investment they are making into multiple X. So AI and RTC really gives that opportunity for many of these organizations. And right now, one of the other things that we are looking at is, again, going through the process in here, is the universe of social media, because things have changed from the days where I used to make, you know, cold calls, for example, or generate leads, or send out a postcard, or we would make any kind of a traditional communication. Now, social media is our universe. Whether we are local or we are acting global, we are going to have to look at this data as a way of reaching. So we need the real-time communications connected to the social media sites, where it gives us the ability to provide ways. Right now, social media in 2018 is broken into different ways that you need to be aware of. I want to highlight some of these areas where these are the, call it, the way we are looking at the market. And market itself is dividing itself into groups and ecosystems, if you will, that you need to look at that as an omni-channel from a marketing point of view. So Messenger is a powerful tool that Facebook has introduced along with WhatsApp. Many colleagues of ours, including us, we use WhatsApp for communications, for group communications such as Slack and so forth. Well, and Facebook, obviously, you have its pros and cons. In organizations like in China, where we have partners and suppliers I'm working with, engineering and manufacturing department. WeChat becomes dominant along with Snapchat. Then you have Instagram, which is taking attraction. And this becomes really what we call the Facebook world. Then you got the G guys, the Google guys, that is the next world that it works with you on the G+, with the Twitter and the YouTube, and obviously some of the other older versions that we all have been exposed to, such as MySpace. And if you're working in the business world, then Slack and LinkedIn are the gateway that it takes you. And if you're into the imaging and using AI in the imaging like Pinterest does, then you need to build that kind of a setting along with that. Then this goes obviously into different geo IPs, and these geo IPs adopted in different countries. For example, you find Telegram as a messaging used in Middle East more than being used by WeChat in, for example, China or Southeast Asia. So these kind of areas where we are looking at, you need to be aware that every one of these aspects we have been working and collaborating. Like we know Line is used very heavily in Thailand, for instance. So we integrate these services, work with Line partners where we can bring those social media services like you see on the right-hand side of our rooms, that there are Twitter icons or Facebook icons or Instagram icons. And Maddie, if you don't mind, you can click on some of those icons and show them that how this integration can take place inside of these rooms. So while we are working on this, what we call top social messaging platform, which is the universe, and you can see that there are different geo IPs from United States going to China and different regions, then you really have to look at this as your conduit to the marketing, to the distribution in digital world, and how you bring in your product and services. Are they B2Cs or are they B2Bs? And with that kind of settings that you can accommodate. So this universe that you see, they have some statistics. As you can see, for example, Facebook with 2.2 billion, YouTube with 1.9 billion, and WhatsApp with 1.5. So these are your population densities, as you can see. And then you need to look at those empire, which we call it massive ecosystems that they've already been built, and then build your own ecosystem for your corporations or build your enterprise for your intra-communication, because there is a trade-off. The trade-off is there are two spectrum of life going on in our world of what we call software. As I explained last week, there are people who sell you software and protect your data, and there are the companies that they give you the software and sell your data. You have to choose which constituent you are in. If you're in a bank business, or you're in a financial market, or you're in e-learning or distance learning or university or media, your content matters to you. So you don't want that content to be just given out for free. You're creating monetization from those content. So that means that you need to build your own enterprise or ecosystem in real-time communication, and eventually plan this out into AI integration and blockchain and so forth. Your privacy matters because you preserve and you value your data. On the other hand, Facebook or YouTube and some of these sites are great gateway to connect these rooms like we are doing right now and broadcast the events and share with the audience to attract people, to introduce your product and services, and bring them in here where that data can play a different set of standards for you. So think of your data where privacy matters with RTC and AI as a tool, and then think of your social media sites as a gateway to the rest of the world where you can reach out and promote your products, services, and companies. So this area that we are talking about right now on the social media, as you can see, they have processes, and that's where we are positioning ourselves. We have been system integrator. I have been a system integrator since the college days that I left my first computer science department from my university. So I can tell you, as system integrators, we always look at open source, proprietary technologies, and we look at those as what we call semi-finished goods, because one intellectual property builds the other intellectual property. So our value comes that we always take your requirements into equation and build it into this kind of rooms for workflow, for job chaining, for blockchaining, for implementation of broadcasting, collaboration, and communication services. Example of one of the things that we are going to be introducing in the next week, and we love to have some of you guys, if you want to come in into some of our open session, it's going to be with Pearson. We're going to be doing a classroom session that we are going to be an experiment, having English as a second language offered in a session as an open house, bringing some of our teachers, and we're going to be bringing a few hundred students as an open house to educate. So we love to have you. If you want to, send us an email to inquiry@netsters.com, or just tag us in here and says, I'm interested, and we send you the link. So the area that you want to talk about, again, what we call the pros and cons. We look at it that this is a glass half full, half empty in this marketplace right now, as we are. In the next 9 years, this market is going to shift dramatically. Everybody is going to need real-time communication. It's going to become part of the entire market standards. And right now, people that they are deploying these in different industries, from open source players such as WebRTC.org, that it's managed and owned by Google, all the way to the smaller shops that they have a few programmers. They have this kind of opportunities that it presents itself from accurate measure of the business impact, lack of resources and talent, as I mentioned to you, the cost and the budget. So that presents the opportunity that if you take our platform that is already built as your foundation, you overcome nearly half of these items in here, and then you can build your leapfrog from there. And that's where we are working with partners around the globe in different parts and projects. These marketeers obviously cannot afford to stay in the dark, because if you don't do this now, trust me, your competition is. Because we are working with many of these organizations on mutual NDA basis and communications. So we encourage you to look at real-time communications, WebRTC standards, and the deployment of that into a solution for your business model, whether you are into B2B2C or you're a B2C model. And with that, the other area that we wanted to share with you was, again, coming back to the drivers. Advancement due to new deep learning and machine learning techniques have had the most overall impact on driving AI adaptation. Especially this impacted RTC, okay, especially with the IoEs and IoTs, because these devices are not smart anymore. So the goal and objective is really to make it a small sensory device with a low bit signal and make it smart, and then that smart intelligent device ultimately can become a tool to send a signal to, let's say, an RTC center, and that invokes a camera or a webcam and creates the dialogue, conversation, demonstration, as we are doing right now, for example, with our own colleagues and supply chain, where we work on hardware and software. We share the views in the room with them. They see in real time our experiences, and then they can troubleshoot that, and they send us the code in a matter of less than half an hour, and we update and we get good through the experimentation. This kind of technicalities improves development, production, and communications among the food chain. So we want to really share that. The other thing that we are thinking, and it becomes extremely important in here, is adding, again, call it voice bots. So the rooms, sometimes you may not have an attendance. Goal is to be able to add an AI assistant in here that you can come in here and talk to a virtual voice bot or an operator and start asking questions. Let's say you want to attend to a English class as a second language, and now you don't know, obviously you speak your native language. So the AI bot or the voice bot automatically can detect your accent, your language, and so forth, and start having a conversation with you in your own native language. And then derive you to learn English as a second language. This kind of applications becomes extremely valuable because now you bring in the diversity, the human diversity that we have in different parts of the world, and we bring them all together. So again, this is part of the process that we are going through, as I shared with you. So when we talk about the market dynamics, speech analytics, voice bots, computer vision, and RTC optimization becomes part of this quest. We are not there by stretch of no imagination. Everybody who claims those, I love to see it, but there are bits and pieces that we have seen as the industry catalyst. We've been doing this ourselves for nearly going to now, after movement from old flash media servers and all of this into HTML5 and WebRTC for nearly 8 years now. So we are excited and we encourage working with other partners, either in a cloud API or in a new startup, or improving features or adding new ways to improve the quality of the media or video delivery. These are all to us very dear. These are the dynamics of where NetStairs is really working with, and we want to focus on that. But the most important thing is having a seamless, adjustable, adaptive engines that it can change from one engine to another engine, because different engines on WebRTC provide different tool sets, different capabilities and know-hows. And one of the areas that we want to liberate our customers is if they decide a year from now another new technology on WebRTC came out and they can adopt it inside their room, it has the minimum amount of pain for them. So they do not marry one solution, but they can marry many solutions and be adaptive when changes happen, which always happens. Then we can adapt to those changes. So these kind of areas is where we like to encourage you to look at it, from speech analytic, voice bots, computer vision. If you feel value that you can work with us in that area, we welcome it. We'd like to collaborate with you. But fundamentally right now, we are working on two fronts: front-end user experiences with devices and technologies, and the back-end to make this highly scalable. So we carry on with this process, as you can see again, with the conditions and everything else that it exists. And the market landscape that you see presents a dynamic market and opportunity. And NetStairs wants to be one of the forefront leader in this market. In this session, I want to thank you again for listening to us and understanding some of these topics. Again, we are going to post some of these hyperlinks in the pages for you so you can download it. And these links, as becomes available for your additional research, we can also put it in this text chat that we can post it later on in your site and read about it. Thank you again, and we hope this session has given you a little more information about the AI aspect and the marketing intelligence and the use of real-time communication with AI in different spectrum of use. And we look forward to seeing you next week for another session of our continued session and educations. Thank you, and have a great weekend. Ciao.